Today we're going to look at unit rates involving complex fractions. What's a complex fraction? Well, that's when you have a fraction within a fraction. The fraction might be in the numerator, it might be in the denominator, or there could be a fraction in both the numerator and the denominator. So let's take a look at some typical problems. Michael ran 2/3 of a mile in 1/6 of an hour. How many miles per hour was Michael running? So we simply make a unit rate. So we're going to do 2/3 of a mile over 1/6 of an hour. So what do we do with a complex fraction? Well, it's simply a dividing problem. We're going to do 2/3 divided by 1/6. Or, hey, we can multiply by the reciprocal. So it'll be 2/3 times 6/1. Now remember, I can simplify before I multiply. In this case, I have a common factor of 3. So 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 6 two times. And I end up with 4/1, or 4 miles for every 1 hour. So basically, Michael is running 4 miles per hour. Okay, let's try this next one. Mr. Pascal's car can travel 120 miles on 3/8 of a tank of gas. How many miles can Mr. Pascal travel on a full tank of gas? So once again, I can set up a unit rate, and this will involve a complex fraction. So I'll have 120 divided by 3/8 of a tank of gas. So this is miles, and this will be tanks. So how do I do that? Well, I simply do 120, and I'm going to go ahead and put it over 1, times 8/3. Now once again, I can simplify before I multiply. In this case, 3 is a factor of 3 one time, and 3 is a factor of 120 40 times. So 40 times 8 is 320 miles for every 1 tank of gas. So in other words, Mr. Pascal can travel 320 miles on a tank of gas. All right, Miss White can paint 2/3 of a wall with 2/5 of a gallon of paint. How many walls can Miss White paint with 1 gallon of paint? So once again, we're doing a unit rate with complex fractions. So we have 2/3 of a wall for every 2/5 of a gallon. Now, one easy way to do that is like it wants to know how much for 1 gallon. So that's what goes in our denominator. So we're simply going to do 2/3 times the reciprocal, 5/2. Because remember, when you're dividing, you multiply by the reciprocal. In this case, we can cancel out a common factor of 2. And we'll get 5/3 of a wall for every 1 gallon. So you end up with 5/3 of a wall for every 1 gallon. Now let's see, does that make sense? Well, 1/3 of a wall for every 1/5 of a gallon. So if you have 5/5 of a gallon, yep, that comes out right. All right, so that is how we find the unit rate with complex fractions.